guys, it's Lauren Yates from Rave It Up here, and today we're going to be having a chat over Zoom with writer and producer Jeanette Collins. She is also the wife of actor Peter Onorati from SWAT, who came on our show back in August last year. Now, Jeanette has achieved a lot during her career, and we cannot wait to hear all about behind the scenes of TV shows. She has written an episode of Will and Grace back in 2001, and she's also worked for HBO, Warner Brothers, and Sony Pictures. So let's get into it today. Before we get into today's interview, we would like to give a shout out to our Patreons, Irene, Bev, and Michael. If you haven't heard of Patreon before, it is a great way to support us and keep us running and improving. You pick a membership tier that suits you and your budget per month, and in return for supporting us, we'll give you behind-the-scenes content and free stuff. You don't have to give much either. You can be a part of our Patreons for as little as $4 a month. Just visit patreon.com/raveitup. You can even donate through PayPal if you don't trust other sites. You can do so just through our email, raveituptv@gmail.com. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. We appreciate anything you can do to support us. Now, let's get into this interview. Jeanette, welcome to Rave It Up. It is a pleasure to finally have you on the show. How are you going today?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. It's very nice to be here.
As you know, your husband Peter Onorati came on the show. I had to have a look because it was, cannot believe, August last year. Where did the time go?
Oh my God, was it already August?
I know. I was like, wow, we've been trying to organize our own interview since then. So I'm really glad you took the time today. Thank you so much. I know you've been busy.
My pleasure. I know. It seems like, 2 years have disappeared with the pandemic. So it's like, we don't know where time goes at all.
Yeah. And congratulations for your son getting married as well. I know you're a little bit busy in amongst all of that as well.
Thank you. That was on top of everything else. But you know what? They got married. They did it. They took a little bit of a honeymoon. They kind of caught COVID after that. But it's okay. No. Everybody's good.
Hey, at least they didn't catch it before the wedding or before the honeymoon.
Exactly. So. They didn't catch it before everybody got vaccinated and boosted and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, since this is your first time on our show, we'd love to get to know you a little bit better, and I think we should start from the beginning, because that only makes sense too, right?
All right.
Get a good idea of how you've made it to where you are today. Did you go to university or college or anything to learn how to be a writer and producer, or did you more learn along the way?
No, I pretty much, I was an actor to begin with and very involved in improvisation in New York. I went to college, but I studied privately with an actor from back in the day. His name is Bradford Dillman. Anybody that knows the 50s films and stuff like that, he was a big actor at the time. He was under contract with Universal, and he lived in Santa Barbara where I grew up. And he invited a small number of people to study with him acting. And so I had done that along with some good friends, and I moved to New York in a play.
Wow.
And that quickly closed because I was a pregnant nun in the play. So obviously there's no reason. I think I was somebody cast based on your astrological signs. So obviously it wasn't going to go anywhere. But at the time, so then I was living with my friend who was a dancer in Chelsea district of Manhattan, and this is in 79 or 8. She was a ballet dancer, and almost as soon as I got there, she got a job and left. So I was in her loft in Chelsea, and then had to get another job. And so I got a job as a barmaid in a bar, and just about the time that happened, I met the bartender who was a stand-up comic from Atlanta. And he said, he's a stand-up. And I said, well, if you like stand-up, if you like comedy, then you should do improvisation because it's really fun. And I think you'd enjoy it. And so he said, if you find something to audition for, will you tell me? And will you come with me? And I said, absolutely. So he found something. We went down and auditioned. I got in. He didn't get in.
Oh.
But he liked it so much, he kept doing it. And that's how I met Peter, because Peter came in to that improv company. And then Al asked me to direct. So, but the other person who was in there, who is the woman who's ultimately became my writing partner. And, improv is kind of playing all the characters when you're writing at once. So it just became kind of interesting for us because it was sort of came naturally to kind of write on your feet, which is improv. Yeah. And when somebody told us that you could actually get paid to write things down as opposed to just do them standing up, you can make money. Really?
Yeah, what?
I know that doesn't make sense, but we started doing that, and that was, 1980.
Wow, time has
way before. Yeah, I know, right?
Connected for you to meet Peter then, and also Mimi, your writing partner, and you've been with them ever since.
I know it is. Yeah. It's shocking. I mean, it really is. It's very surreptitious. It kills me. So not surreptitious. Serendipitous. Yes. I am a writer.
So I'm guessing this was never really the plan when you were younger. Was there any other careers that when you were a little kid that you just dreamed of doing?
No. I mean, I always wanted to be an actor, but then when I realized that I don't want this to be the product, I mean, it's hard. That's it's very uncomfortable on a certain level because there's a lot of rejection, and I don't really need that. I'd rather hand somebody something. If they don't like it, it's like, well, that's your fault. Because I can't do, I like it, and that's all I can say.
So you prefer to be a bit more behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Peter can have the limelight.
Yeah, much safer back here. That's all I can say.
Oh, I love it. And speaking of Peter as well, I did actually get to talk to him about this in our interview, but how did you said you met during the, improv theatre company, but was there any immediate connection, a bit of a spark for you, or was it more becoming friends first?
No, we were kind of friends, but I thought he was a little stuck up. But that's only because I think he was too shy, and it's but he was really funny, and I always liked that. And actually, my friend at the time said, "You're going to marry that guy," and I said, "Eddie, you don't know what you're talking about." And he was right.
Look at that, decades later.
I know, right? I'm sure he rused the day.
And I have heard as well, you're the reason Peter actually got into acting full time. So I wanted to ask in your opinion, especially as a mother, when you were about to start a family, was that a little bit scary? Not knowing whether he was going to really make it and make it a real stable career and good living, that you guys could still support the kids?
You know what? I don't think I've ever thought like that. Probably stupidly, but
in a way, that's a good thing.
You know what? It just is one of those things where you kind of go, I mean, my father was always of a mind there, you'll make a way. You always make a way. I mean, if you stop to think of when is the right time to have children, you'll never have them because it's never going to be the right time. So, I mean, we've been very fortunate. So I have to say that, we've been blessed to have the luck that we've had, and we've both made very good living. So, and the kids never suffered as far as I could tell. But no, I would just, if you feel passionately about what you're doing, I always knew that Pete would work. He had that kind of ethic. It was the hardest thing for him was he didn't start out an actor. So he didn't know what it was like to wait for a role while you're waiting tables or any of that kind of stuff, because he had a career already. And, he did while he was waiting for stuff back in New York, he would do some consulting, and he made tons more money than people waiting tables were making. So, but yeah, I didn't ever think, I was never worried about I don't know. I mean, we did have Sonny. Our first child was literally 9 months and 1 day after we got married. So,
wow.
We didn't wait. I was older too, I was 34. So
time's ticking.
Yeah. I mean, it's if you're going to have kids, you better hurry up, I guess.
Well, apparently when you told him to get into acting, he said, "What, so I can starve and have 4 jobs like you?" What was your response after that?
Well, he didn't actually say that at the time. He's made that up because it sounds funny.
Yeah, he put it in our interview.
It's that is one of the things where you kind of go, you want to do it. And if you don't try it, you'll always say, well, what if? So you have to try it. And when he tried it, I mean, he started working right away and never stopped.
And why not do it now instead of later? It's kind of like we said about the kids, that the time will never be right if you just keep waiting for that time.
And if you're going to constantly be saying, God, I should have tried that back then. And it's acting you can do until you're dead in the grave, literally as old as you want, as long as you can remember lines, or you can read them off a card somewhere. You can still act, I think.
Well, it shows, because he's still acting to this day in a lot of stuff. And I'm like, he just keeps popping up everywhere.
I know. You'll always find him in some weird show in the middle of the night somewhere.
I did have a read of your interview as well when I was doing my, little bit of research on you. You did an interview with Peter for the Feminine Collective, and you guys were talking about, staying grounded when working in Hollywood. And Peter said that you keep him grounded. It always comes back to you. It's the woman in his life. And you also said that your children obviously give you the greatest perspective in your life. So you guys have 3 sons now, and they've all grown up, and as you said, one of them's gotten married now. How did you find it in the beginning, though, juggling the work and the family?
Well, you know what? Mimi, God bless her, we always chose jobs. I mean, it's not like, you could always choose the job you wanted to work on, but it was always a question of, quality of life.
Yes.
And I had 3 small boys when we were getting involved in this. And quite honestly, it was like, that was always a priority for me. So if we were going to work with somebody like on the Roseanne show, it was like we were offered to run the last season of Roseanne. And I was like, yeah, I don't think if you give me $1 million an episode, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But it was like, that didn't happen. So it was like, I just didn't, it's like, you don't want to be at the mercy of somebody who doesn't ever want to go home.
Because your family should come first.
Well, in my mind, it does. And so I would constantly put on on the conference table where we were all working, there's a phone, and I put the phone on speakerphone, and my son, Sonny, who was the oldest, he would say, well, and when are you coming home? I said, I got to go, guys. So let's just,
wrap it up.
Move it along.
Yeah. It's a real eye opener when, it's one thing being successful in Hollywood and making, writing all these for these incredible shows, but you're still a normal woman at home. You still got to worry about going home and cooking and cleaning.
We want to be. I mean, the thing is that we would never decorate our office. I don't want to spend more time in my office than I do at my house.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
I'm not going to sleep here.
Yes.
I'm just not. And it's not to say that yeah. No. I mean, it wasn't like we didn't have a lot of jobs that were, go late into the night and morning. But for the most part, we chose the jobs where it's like my friend Mark Flanagan used to say, it's the longest cocktail party you will ever be at. The people that you work with. So you better like the people, and they better be like-minded. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable.
Or learn to like them at least.
It's something. Judge, you've tried. We were lucky, though. I mean, I think we only asked to get off of one show. We called our agent, go get us off the show, get us off.
It's good that the rest has been a good experience for you then.
I cannot complain.
And do you think also with being married to Peter, is it helpful to be married to someone that is in the same industry? Do you guys kind of help each other with scripts? He helps you with writing and you help him memorize stuff?
He did. I mean, you know what? It's helpful just because you both understand it. He doesn't really need my help at all most of the time. And I don't really, ask him for that much help. Occasionally we will, we'll do something together, have an idea together or something like that. But it's not, I've already got a partner for that aspect of things. So it's always, a little dicey to get too many voices in there. But
get out, Peter. I don't need your opinion. I already got my other
really
partner.
Say that. It's like another partner.
It's like you got two marriages there.
It's very similar in a lot of ways. It's kind of bizarre,
Probably spent the same amount of time with both of them.
Pretty much, yeah.
If not more with Mimi, I don't know. Depends how much you're working.
Oh, this last couple of years, because we've done everything from home, it's been just impossible, because you're doing everything, collaborating on a final draft, or, you're writing a Google Doc together and stuff and talking on the phone. And that's really different. It's a really different way of doing stuff.
Well, it's good that you could still work through it all as well.
And fortunately, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people couldn't, and I would hate to have to be on a sitcom where you're literally on a Zoom like sitcom table. That would be horrible.
Hopefully, if there's another sitcom in the future for you, you don't have to do it that way.
I know, really. Whoa,
Well, speaking of sitcoms, because I was so excited to talk to you about this, because I personally love this show. In 2001, you were the writer for the TV show Will and Grace. How
Ah,
was your experience on that show? How many episodes did you end up writing?
we just wrote one because we were guest writers on that show. So we weren't actually on the staff, but we had worked with Max and David on I think there's the show was called Good Advice, and that was back in the day. But that had a staff of amazing people. It was Michael Patrick King, Tom Palmer, Pete Tolan, Russ Woody, Max and David, Mimi and I, and another woman. And honestly, that was like, if you look at all those people's IMDb's, it's like a zillion. I mean, they're just amazing. Every single one of them is an amazing writer. It was kind of an ill-fated show because it was Shelley Long,
Mm.
and she was a little bit ill at the time. I don't know. She said
Oh.
she had irritable bowel syndrome. I think she was just, I don't know. I don't want to say this, but she was more sick than that. I think
Yeah.
she couldn't quite work. And it was funny because it was her and Treat Williams and Terry Garr. It was a really cute show,
Mm.
and it was unfortunate that it didn't work. But then the earthquake happened. Was
Oh,
the
there was an
earthquake?
earthquake in the
Yeah,
middle
the
of it.
earthquake happened in Northridge earthquake. So after that, it was like then everything fell apart. It was just not
Oh.
important. It was kind of impossible. But
So do you think getting that gig for Will and Grace was more about your connections? Because as you
yeah,
said, it
we
was
had
only
always
one
stayed in touch
episode.
with we always stayed in touch with Max and David, and they really liked us. We had interviewed to go on staff with them, and um, it might have been me not wanting to work late hours that had
Mm.
us not do that. But we did it, we had a bunch of friends that were on staff. And I think, we ended up working with Max and David on that show, Good Morning Miami. But it
Yeah.
was fun. I mean, we knew a lot of the people that were on staff, so we had a good time writing the script.
Fun experience.
Yeah,
I had a look
totally.
too. I could not believe this number, but there are 11 seasons in total for that show.
No,
When
isn't
you
it
come
great?
into a show to write only one or maybe two episodes, but someone has been doing the rest of the work for the whole other seasons, and obviously the audience are used to that like quality of work and obviously those types of jokes. Is that difficult for you? Like, how do you keep up with that?
Well, the thing is that it's like, especially for that show, it was very specific characters. And
Yeah.
once you start writing for those characters, it's like the jokes come out of the character.
Mm.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a hard joke where there's a setup and a punchline. It just comes out of that character's voice. And even if it's a straight line coming out of that mouth, it's funny.
Mm.
And those people were brilliant, brilliantly talented.
So luckily you got to work with the other people on the team and then they kind of just put in their own
Yeah.
opinions, I guess.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I mean, when you're just like a gun for hire in a situation like that. But it was but most of the stuff we wrote stayed in. I don't know. We were lucky, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Because you're that talented.
Oh yeah.
And in 2008, you were the consulting producer for 6 episodes of MYOB featuring Ashley Graham from Gilmore Girls. Can I ask, what is the difference between a consulting and a supervising producer? Because I've seen a few different ones
Oh,
on
you know
your
what? Once you get
IMDb.
to a certain level, it's like if you're not the executive producer, it's like you sort of go from um, staff writer to an edit to a story editor to an executive story editor to a producer to a co-producer to a supervising producer to an executive producer.
Ah.
A lot of the shows are so top heavy with a lot of executive producers because of managers or a lot of other people that are involved, and they're non-writing executives. They take up a lot of budget.
Mm.
You end up coming in as a consultant where you don't necessarily have to work 5 days a week, or you work 5 days a week, but you can name your own price, sort of, so you can fit in between stuff.
Mm.
Um, for that show, Don Roos is really talented, and that was based on his movie. Now I'm not going to remember the name of it. It was with Lisa Kudrow and oh my goodness, the girl with the big head. She played Wednesday on the Addams Family. What was her name?
Christina
Jeez.
Ricci?
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, a little big of a forehead, you know.
I agree with that. Just a
Okay,
little bit of a
she
twisting
can't
in the
help it.
forehead, but
That show was amazing because Ashley's father is the man who wrote the Jack. See, you're gonna have to fill in the brains for me. Jack Nicholson's movie about Mulholland, with Faye Dunaway.
I don't know that one.
Oh
But I'm
my
sure
God!
the audience will.
Oh yeah, but at any rate, he was a famous screenwriter, and she was brand new to television and acting at that point. And it was with Lauren Graham, and they were doing a scene, and then we were behind a glass because they were shooting on the inside, and the chairs were all set up here, so we're watching it. And he leans over to me, and he says, "She's not very good," about his own daughter. And I was like, "Oh my God!" Talk about. I mean, I was shocked because I thought that's really interesting that your father would do something like that. Brutal. Yeah. Not necessarily honest. I mean, I don't know. She didn't get a chance to do anything, right?
Oh.
I know, really. But that was a good show. Don Russ is so sweet and so talented.
Well, it probably means that you can kind of trust, you know, if he's saying that about his daughter, then if you're really good, he will say it. So, I don't know.
Maybe. Hopefully. Maybe. Well, hopefully he said something. He didn't say that to her face. Although I don't know that he was so far away that she couldn't hear it.
I did have a quick look at your LinkedIn profile as well, page, whatever you want to call it, and I was really impressed and excited to see that in 1976 you actually worked as an entertainment professional for the Walt Disney Company. I love Disney. I'm still a huge Disney girl at heart. How was it working for Disney? Because I've heard from a lot of other people in the past that they love things very specific. Was that the same case for you?
Well, that was a very specific thing. I mean, at the time I worked in the park. I was I did Mary Poppins. And
oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I did a musical review with as Mary Poppins with a bunch of characters. And then I was also Snow White on a boat far, far away in the rivers of America. You had very far away. And I wrote a puppet show for some line of clothing that they were releasing at Sears for Winnie the Pooh and stuff. And I just wrote like a little puppet show that they did in the stores around the area. So Disneyland, which it was really more for that wing of the company, as opposed to Disney, the corporate Disney for TV.
Yeah.
Because we did the last thing that we had done, a friend asked us to write on a show for Disney called I Didn't Do It. And it was a reboot of a show that didn't go well. And we really loved this guy who was running the show. We had worked with him on Suddenly Susan. And we were at the same time working on Getting On, which is like a short season of half hours based on a British show that we were working with our friends Mark and Will on. That was at HBO. So it was like a very dark comedy with Getting On, and a very primary color comedy for kids, for Disney. And it was like it was a creative whiplash in a sense, going from one to the other. So that is way more specifically, like this was about a group of kids and we were saying they should get together at a coffee place, and that's where they hang out. And they were like, yeah, we can't do coffee for kids. We can't do caffeine. So we had to make it a juice bar.
Chocolate, yeah.
It was like, because people hang out at juice bars, but
I don't know.
Do they? I don't think the juice bar ever even showed up at that point, but they're very specific. They have real specific rules about, you got to get to a certain point before anybody kisses anybody, and it's got to be very, this, that, and the other thing. But a lot of, a lot of their stars have done a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the show that I did for Disney, none of that. I mean, because that was at the park, and then it was working through their art department to do the puppet show. And that wing of whatever I don't even know why I was doing that. To tell you the truth, that was like somebody just said,
job.
"Who can do this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I can do that." I didn't know I can do that, but it was fun.
So what does an entertainment professional technically do? Do they just write the puppet shows and things like that, or?
As far as I know, that's all I did. I mean, it was almost like in the advertising department in a weird way, I think.
Oh.
But I was so young, and you know what? There's just big gaps in my memory because I was so tired because I was working 15 things all the time. So
Yes.
he was talking about when he said you should be an actor, because he's looked at me and I looked like I was just, dog tired all the time.
And in this interview, you're like, "Oh yeah, I did do that. Oh yeah."
That's really. Where did you find that?
I'm glad to bring you down memory lane, even if you don't really remember
Thank you. Really.
So over the years, you've worked as a writer and producer for Warner Brothers and then Sony Pictures and HBO, as you just mentioned. Has there been a favorite company that you've worked for, or maybe a favorite project?
I think Getting On.
Yeah.
Because, HBO, that was a joint production with HBO and BBC America. And the women that worked at BBC America were so smart and so sweet and terrific, had great notes. And HBO, they let you go. And Will and Mark are also good friends now and very talented and write in such a specific, interesting way that it's always fun to try and figure out how do you do that? They write like old ladies, which is hysterical because they're two gay men. I mean, but they've got that down.
And how do you come up with the ideas that you do write about? Is it just taking inspiration from things around you and in your life?
Sometimes, yes. Typically you write from things that have happened to you, or, things that you can draw from that are kind of parallel to the situation that you're in as far as story-wise goes, like where those characters are at that point in their lives. If you need to remember back to college, or you need to remember back to grammar school or raising kids, or, any of that stuff, dating. I mean, it's a little different now with social media and, how mature kids are at this particular point where, most people were not getting there until they were like in their mid-20s. The kids are just way smarter than they ever were before. And they're a little socially, I don't want to say retarded, but there's like having been on a phone and a screen and not really dealing with one another as much. There's a lot of, it's a lot safer on a certain level to not have to put yourself out there. But by the same token, it's really scary to not be out there, to not have that skill set, because at some point you're going to have to talk to each other, right?
Yeah, you got to go out there and practice it, because otherwise you're just hiding behind the screen.
I know, and trying to make up who you are. Yeah, it's like you really want to. There's something about being able to be out in the world and not hiding behind whoever. You do that typically when you move to go to college, and you're like, I don't like the way I was back at home, so I'm going to make myself. This is who I am, and you create a new person, and that's how you grow and expand. But when everything is on a phone or texting, you don't get a tone from texting, do you?
No. Even with emojis, it's not the same.
Yeah, it doesn't help. You can put as many exclamation points as you want on the end of a sentence. It's not going to help.
It's like, does that mean you're yelling at me?
Are you screaming?
I don't understand. Yes. Go out there and meet people the old-fashioned way, right?
Oh, I hope.
Yeah.
I hope. Good Lord.
With things like social media and a lot more people, getting into the industry, how are you kind of keep up with the competition when it comes to those new people coming in?
It's that's an interesting question, because I typically would have said, there's no way I'm going to keep up with what's happening. It's like it has so left me in the dust. But Mimi and I just still seem to keep working, which is remarkable.
That's great.
Being as we're way older than anybody has a right to be and still be working. I think that, and I really do hope, because people are so glued to their television and streaming and whatnot. It's an amazing thing when something's good. It's good. You know, if you watch the Queen's Gambit, it's like anybody from 80 years old to 14 years old, you know, gets it. It might be a bit much for a 14-year-old, but not a 14-year-old of these days. It's like, so I think that, you know, if you believe what you think is funny and you put it out there and somebody responds to it, it's you're just going to keep doing it.
Well, the great thing with people watching TV so often and things like Netflix and everything is it keeps you in a job because you got to keep making content, right?
Oh, there's so many places that are, you know, looking for content now. There's
I
just so
know.
many outlets. But, you know, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, that's good. You and maybe just kind of stay in your lane and just keep working. That's what's made you successful instead of going, oh, I'm worrying about this other person coming up behind me.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that I think feel like we were on the back end of stuff from the get go, so we don't have to worry about who's coming up.
Yeah.
God bless them, you know, give everybody else a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's enough room for everybody to have success, isn't there?
Right? Isn't there? That's true.
And with Mimi as well, when you guys started your careers together in TV, you were actually nominated for an Emmy for writing on In Living Color. So how did that feel? Was that a bit of a pinch me moment, going, oh my goodness, an Emmy? Like that's the biggest award
you know what?
get for TV.
Yeah, it was back then too. I think because it was a sketch show. And it was up with the awards shows and with late night TV.
Wow.
So it was just Johnny Carson and the Academy Awards and sketch comedy. And I think it was Saturday Night Live and us. You know what I mean? But it was just, I mean, we didn't know any better. And we were used to writing sketches for one another. And we wrote radio spots for Lincoln Center Theater in New York City and then did them as well.
Yeah.
So we were used to writing shorter content things. But the majority of the people that were on staff on that first season were David Letterman writers. And they were not performers. They were all just, you know, they would write it and then slip it under a door. Whereas Mimi and I said, well, we should read it around the table because then you can hear it and you can hear if you think it's funny. And they were like, no, we don't want to do that. And we ended up having to do it because at the time, Keenan Wayans was dyslexic. I think he was trying to read it out loud and it was like, oof, this is taking too long. So,
but it is better to hear it. You know, a lot of people do that now with TV shows.
Oh, yeah, always. Right. So, so it was like, I mean, it was a thrill. I was pregnant with the twins at the time and it was like squish into a dress and go.
Fingers crossed we could win an Emmy.
Yeah, well, it didn't happen, but that's okay.
That's all right. I'm sure there's plenty in your future, Jeanette.
Better hurry up.
Yeah, hope so. Even though you've already achieved so much in your career, Jeanette, what else can we expect from you in the future? What's up next? What are you working on right now?
Well, we just finished a script that was with NBC International, and unfortunately, they just passed on it. But it was a really kind of a great thing for us to get to write because we'd never done anything like this before. But it was an hour drama about a woman based on a book about a woman whose husband who was a bookbinder and ended up with rheumatoid arthritis in his hands and he couldn't bind the books anymore. And she had a child who was epileptic and she needed money. They couldn't not work. So she said, I'll do it. And it was illegal for women to work at the time outside the house. And so she started doing it and sent it. They got one job and the work was so good and so delicate and so beautiful that the guy figured out that it was her doing it and not the man. And he ends up blackmailing her into binding porn.
Oh my goodness.
But it was fascinating. I mean, it was like so much based in the truth and so much interesting character stuff. And we'd never done anything in Victorian England before. So it was just like really interesting. And they ended up just passing because they couldn't, the whole upper structure of the NBC International just changed. And typically when that happens, they want anything that was in development before they came on, they let that go and just start their own stuff because they want to have a finger hold on, whatever gets developed. So unfortunately that went away, but we're pitching something about Helena Rubinstein right now. And if that gets sold someplace, the whole first season is based in Australia.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
It's great that you're coming on the show then.
That's right.
Up to date. I'd love to hear more about it. I'm guessing there's a lot of research involved with stuff like that, because that other one that got rejected, a lot of, as you said, you've never done that sort of, era before as well.
Yeah. And it's fun to do that kind of stuff. It's fun to do the research and, and find out what's good to use and what's interesting about, what you're finding out about stuff that's really different. And they were both the character in Dora Damage was really ahead of her time, as was Helena Rubinstein. She was just a crazy Polish, short, kind of squat, but an amazing. I mean, she created lipstick in a tube. From a shell casing from World War II. Wow. She created mascara. Mascara didn't exist before her. She was the first person to have celebrity endorsement for her stuff. She was branding she was like branding before branding existed. She was amazing. So, hopefully that'll get picked up and it'll be a really fun thing to do, because I think it would.
I'd love to hear more about her story. So fingers crossed. I can't live without mascara, so thank you.
Yes, I know, exactly, right?
And what advice, Jeanette, would you give to our audience today who might want to follow their dreams of becoming a writer or a producer?
You know what? I would say write down a personal story and don't stop yourself. Just look at a situation, beginning, middle, and end. Fill out the characters and write it from your perspective. Like, what happened to me in third grade? Or, start with just a time in your life that really meant something and write about it. Producing is a whole other thing that will ultimately come to you. But it's like, when we were working at Warner Brothers, there's some sort of a masterclass thing that they have there where you can apply to learn. And one of the executives was running it, and he says, if you're looking for a plot, look to TV. And I would say, that's not all that good of advice. I would say, don't look to TV. We've seen it if you're looking to TV. I mean, there's not that many news stories to begin with. So what is specifically interesting is whatever is unique to yourself.
True.
I'll tell you a story. This is a story that Mimi loves to tell, but it's about Ang Lee, the director.
Yep. He
wanted to do a story about his family in China, and it was called Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. And he gave it to the screenwriter, and he's a Jewish man. And he did all this research about Chinese families, and he wrote the script and he handed it into Ang Lee, and Ang Lee read it. He goes, it's so good, but it's just not Chinese enough. And so he went off and he did even more research, and he looked harder and worked harder, and he handed it in, and he said, yeah, it's terrific. But it's just not Chinese enough. So the guy said, screw it. I'm going to write about my own family. So he wrote about his Jewish family and handed it over. And Ang Lee said, now that's Chinese.
Even though it was a Jewish family.
Even though it's a Jewish family, because it's universal. It is true to you, will be true to anyone, because they all see it in themselves.
That's very true. I love that we ended nice and deep.
Yeah.
I hope people take that advice on board as well.
Oh, it's a great story, because it is so amazing. I mean, my acting teacher used to say, all we're doing is holding a mirror up to society when we're acting.
Oh,
because
that's true.
You just want to see yourself, and that's what you're doing.
Because that's how you connect to the characters, and that's what makes you really like the show or the movie.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a great industry to work in, so
it's a fun one.
Don't
We're
give
lucky,
up, guys. Now, Jeanette, before we finish up today, would you like to play a game and see if you beat Peter?
Oh, Lord. Okay. Well, I
Yes.
probably won't beat Peter, but
he may have told you about this game already. So it is a game that we play here on Rave It Up called the 2-minute hot seat. And it's very easy. So what I do is I ask you various questions and you just have to pick your preference. So it's like dogs or cats, singing or dancing. And you have to answer as many questions in 2 minutes as possible.
Oh, all right.
Yes. And then when we finish, we'll see where you sit on the leaderboard up against everyone else that's played the game on the show and also Peter. So he has answered 48 questions, which is number 40 on the Rave It Up leaderboard. So you've got to answer at least 48.
Okay.
And I also interviewed his former SWAT co-star, Kenny Johnson, as well, and he answered 46. So Peter just beat him by 2 questions. So let's see if you can beat either of them, 46 or 48 questions.
We'll see.
It's intense. Let me get my stopwatch out. All right. And here we go. And I'll change the camera view so we can see both of us. Okay. All right, here we go. You ready, Jeanette?
I am.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Facebook or Instagram?
Facebook.
iPhone or Samsung?
iPhone.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Rap or rock music?
Rap.
Rock or pop?
Pop.
Pop or country?
Pop.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Beach or pool?
Pool.
Skiing or snowboarding?
Skiing.
Sun or rain?
Sun.
Comedy or action?
Action.
Blondes or brunettes?
Blondes.
Sweet or salty?
Ooh, salty.
Sunglasses or hat?
Sunglasses.
SUV or convertible?
Convertible.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
PlayStation or Wii?
Don't care.
Clean or messy?
Yes, it's messy.
Singing or dancing?
Dancing.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Italian or Chinese food?
Italian.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Kim Kardashian or Scarlett Johansson?
Scarlett.
Johnny Depp or Will Smith?
Will.
Mall or online shopping?
Online.
Cinema or home movie?
Cinema.
Ice cream or gelato?
Gelato.
Cake or cookies?
Cake.
Cookies or cookie dough?
Cookies.
Family or friends?
Family.
Christmas or your birthday?
Christmas.
Night or day?
Night.
Bus or train?
Train.
Straight or curly hair?
Straight.
Eye color blue or brown?
Brown.
Vampire or werewolf?
Vampire.
Texting or calling?
Texting.
Los Angeles or New York?
New York.
Friday or Saturday?
Friday.
TV or movies?
Movies.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Snow or surf?
Snow.
Harry Potter or Twilight?
Twilight.
Family Guy or The Simpsons?
Family Guy.
McDonald's or Burger King?
Burger King.
French fries or chips?
French fries.
Burger or hot dog?
Burger.
And we're out of time! Woo! Oh my goodness. That was intense. Do you think you answered more than Peter? 48 questions he answered.
I have no earthly idea.
Not even a ballpark?
No.
Well, I am happy to announce, Jeanette, you have answered 47. So you guys are just one
right
question.
in the middle.
Yeah, one question
boy.
out. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to get you both on at the same time, maybe, and then see how we do. That would be really entertaining. Very funny.
That's fun.
Yeah, so 47 questions, which means he's sitting number 40 on the Rave It Up leaderboard, and you're just sitting 41. So you're just under him. Just under him. He was a tiny bit faster.
Faster.
All right. Well,
he's more competitive.
I know. I think he is. Well, we are unfortunately getting to the end of the interview now, Jeanette, but as a closing statement, and was probably the most important question, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your 14-year-old self?
Work harder. Probably.
Yeah, it didn't work hard enough.
You know what? You can always work harder, can't you?
That's true.
I mean, I don't think anybody didn't get that on their report card. You could apply yourself more. You could concentrate more. You could work harder. You could talk less.
Yes. Talk less. Were you a big talker in class? I can just see that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I bring you.
But that's how. I would say work harder because that's something that everybody can always do.
Yes, very true. Look at that full circle of taking you through your whole career and then ended you at 14.
14. Yeah. Yay.
Really bringing you back. And before we go, if our audience want to contact you or find out what you're up to in the future, where should they go? Do you have social media yourself?
I don't really. No. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, like you said.
LinkedIn,
so they can always find me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I will keep the audience up to date anyway. You let me know how it goes with other series, which you said was going to be here in Australia. So,
oh man, yeah, I definitely will.
Do you plan to come yourself? Because I'd love to have you here.
Hey, writers don't typically get to go, but I would. You know what? If we could, I would definitely.
Yeah, business trip with you and Peter.
That's right. Oh, and I think I'm very needed on set.
Yes, definitely needed. And then you're here for promotion, so you do an interview with me again in person.
Yeah.
What a great holiday.
Do you guys do you interview people that are actually from Australia?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we interview Australians and pretty much anybody around the world. The great thing about Zoom is I can do it right here in Australia and you're on the other side of the world.
That's true. Because I know somebody that's there. He grew up with me in Santa Barbara. His name's Randy Berger. And he's an actor. He's done a lot of stage stuff, but I know he's done some film stuff too.
That name rings a bell somehow.
Maybe he goes by Randall Berger. I don't know.
Well, if he wants to come on the show, you let me know. He's absolutely
all right.
welcome. Any friend of yours is a friend of mine now, so bring him
thank you, Lauren. That's sweet.
You're welcome. I do love to make sure, it's good to hear everybody's stories because, I think this is the first time I've had a writer and producer on, so I get to hear that side of things, and so does our audience in case they want to get into that sort of field. But then to give the up-and-coming people some promotion as well, I just love to spread the word that there's some really cool jobs out there we don't realize.
Totally. And you're doing one of them, and you're doing it quite well, I must say.
Oh, thank you very much. And I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on our show today. You're welcome on any time, okay?
Thank you. If I have anything else to say, I'll let you know.
Yes, please do. Just email me. And just keep in contact. Yeah. I hope to have you on again in the future. And
all right, great.
Maybe you and Peter at the same time. Who knows if we could
God, the screen might explode. We don't know.
Or you guys will just take over the show and I'll just be the third wheel in the corner. Either way. Well, I hope you all enjoyed today's interview. If you'd like to check out any of our other interviews, please visit our website, raveituptv.com. And also our podcast is on all podcasting platforms now. Just type in Rave It Up. And if you haven't also gotten our book, Knowing What I Know Now yet, please do so. That is also available on our website, as well as a little mini ebook that I wrote last year called Staying Strong, Finding Inner Peace During Hard Times. But thank you so much for watching today, guys, and we'll see you in the next video for another amazing interview. Bye!